The 1984 Ethiopian famine shocked the world. It was partly caused by a decades-long drought right across sub-Saharan Africa, a region known as the Sahel. For year after year, the summer rains failed. At the time, some scientists blamed overgrazing and poor land management. But now, there's evidence that the real culprit was global dimming. The Sahel's lifeblood has always been a seasonal monsoon. For most of the year, it is completely dry. But every summer, the heat of the sun warms the oceans north of the equator. This draws the rain belt that forms over the equator northwards, bringing rain to the Sahel. But for 20 years, in the 1970s and 80s, the tropical rain belt consistently failed to shift northwards, and the African monsoon failed. For climate scientists like Leon Rothstein, the disappearance of the rains had long been a puzzle. He could see that pollution from Europe and North America blew right across the Atlantic. But all the climate models suggested it should have little effect on the monsoon. But then Rothstein decided to find out what would happen if he took the Maldives findings into account.
What we found in our model was that when we allowed the pollution from Europe and North America to affect the properties of the clouds in the northern hemisphere, the clouds reflected more sunlight back to space, and this cooled the oceans of the northern hemisphere. And to our surprise, the result of this was that the tropical rain bands moved southwards, tracking away from the more polluted northern hemisphere towards the southern hemisphere.
Polluted clouds stopped the heat of the sun getting through. That heat was needed to draw the tropical rains northwards. So the life-giving rain belt never made it to the Sahel.
So what our model is suggesting is that these droughts in the Sahel in the 1970s and the 1980s may have been caused by pollution from Europe and North America, affecting the properties of the clouds and cooling the oceans of the northern hemisphere.
Rothstein has found a direct link between global dimming and the Sahel drought. If his model is correct, it was what came out of our exhaust pipes and power stations that contributed to the deaths of 1 million people in Africa and afflicted 50 million more. But this could be just a taste of what global dimming has in store.
The Sahel is just one example of the monsoon system. Let me take you to another part of the world, Asia, where the same monsoon brings rainfall to 3.6 billion people, roughly half the world's population. My main concern is this air pollution and the global dimming will also have a detrimental impact on this Asian monsoon. We are not talking about few millions of people, we are talking about few billions of people.